Welcome. I'm so glad you're here to talk about PTSD, trauma, and what we can do every day to stay focused on feeling good, feeling settled, and what we know about the latest in brain research, as well as traditional models of healing through art. Really excited that you're here. And I want to share a little bit about the book that I wrote, PTSD and Art Therapy, and essentially give you some tools that you can use every day to feel good. They're simple, they're easy, and I think you'll enjoy them. We'll practice a couple of them. So as we're getting settled here today, what's one thing that brought you joy today? So go ahead and put your answer in the chat. I'd love to hear what brought you joy. And that really matters when we're talking about trauma. It matters that we're connected to what feels good to us and what is important to us. So making a connection to what brings you joy is one way that you can take care of yourself. My family, empanadas and baby kicks. A good nap, a great workout, good music, completing a delayed task, visiting a good friend from out of town, photography and music, my dog, my family, my daughter, coming home to my pets. Went for my first bone scan and the radiologist could not stop talking about my outfit. That's amazing. And nature, these are great. So really hanging on to what brings you joy is important, especially tonight when we're talking about trauma. And I want to encourage you to just take care of yourself. Make sure that you feel good. If you feel unsettled at any point, take a deep breath, stand up and stretch. Feel free to take whatever kind of breaks that you need. Oh, one more. Watching my daughter, listening to music, and dancing while making art. Oh, these are great. This is how the book starts out. Collectively, we suffer. To heal from that suffering, we must share it with another person through words and art. And I'm certainly not the first person to say something like this, that art and telling our story is what really makes us able to move through traumas. I want to acknowledge the artist who did the cover image, and it's Jennifer Clay. And the art was part of her response art. She did some traveling to Switzerland to work at the Jungian archives, and she viewed the art of people who had fled during the Holocaust. And so she did an amazing series of art. There's a lot of it in the book. So I want to appreciate her in particular. And then these are some of the contributors to the book. So many people helped make this happen. These are the people whose writing appeared in the book. All right, so we're going to start off with some art. So Melanie Worstall is an art therapist on the East Coast, and she came up with this art intervention, and I want to introduce it to you. And it is mindful breathing. And if you start on the left and you imagine that you're tracing your finger along the lines, each movement up is a breath in, each movement down is a breath out, in and out. And I want to count 10 breaths for you. While you draw, each breath in goes up, each breath out goes down. And I'm going to do 10 in thinking about how Thich Nhat Hanh introduces breathing. He says, breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. And so I'll count in a way that he counts some breaths. And it's going to be breathe in 1, breathe out 1. So if you get your pencil or pen on your paper, starting at the bottom, breathe in 1, breathe out 1. Breathe in 2. Breathe out 2. Breathe in 3. Breathe out 3. Breathe in 4. Breathe out 4. Breathe in 5. Breathe out 5. Breathe in 6. Breathe out 6. Breathe in 7. Breathe out 7. Breathe in 8. Breathe out 8. Breathe in 9. Breathe out 9. Breathe in 10. Breathe out 10. When I breathe in, I know I'm breathing in. When I breathe out, I know I'm breathing out. I hope that gave you a sense of presence in your body and a calming of your heart, and you feel settled. And you can keep returning to your breath throughout this evening. And I encourage you to do this doodle anytime you want. You can do it in meetings. No one knows what you're doing. By way of introduction, I'm a psychologist and an art therapist, and I've been doing this 25 years. And I started out at the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center, and I was raised up by some incredible feminists using feminist psychology, feminist ethics, anti-racism, and community engagement. And those teachings have been a huge part of my work ever since. My focus has remained on trauma and what comes along with trauma, which is substance abuse, a variety of sort of mental health diagnoses, and also this kind of growth and deepening that happens for people. So I want to talk about all those things. I've spent the last 11 years as chair at Notre Dame de Namur in their art therapy psychology department. The last couple of years moved us over to Dominican. And now I'm in this very exciting spot for me, my planned retirement, and I'll tell you more about what I'm doing later. So I want to share with you, there's a variety of traumas and trauma triggers, and they don't have to be so big or so small that they are defined very narrowly. So I want to really impress upon you that we all experience traumas. It's part of our life, and they range from a rejection in childhood or adulthood, all the way up to assault and abuse. And I made a list here. There's so many things that can be a small trauma to one person and a larger trauma to another. And I think living through the pandemic the last couple of years, we can see that some people experience this as a small ongoing trauma. For other people, it's been a hugely life-altering traumatic experience. For everyone, it's this ongoing experience. And so what we know is that ongoing and chronic exposure increases our stress and our reactions. And so certainly historical collective traumas live on through the generations, and hostile environments, such as ones that discriminate on race, gender, country of origin, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity. Those are chronic and ongoing. And so being incredibly considerate when we are working with someone or interacting with someone, they may appear to be reacting to something that you don't quite see or understand. And so there are a lot of ways that we respond in our own way to the triggers of our past traumas. And the more we can be kind and compassionate towards others in their reaction and our own reaction, I think we'll be living in a better space. This is an incredible piece of art, and I'll just share a little bit about some of these. They are featured in the book, and you can read more about it. I'm not going to be sharing trauma stories, so you just have a sense of being able to look at the art and see what's happening. And I want you to really relax into it, use your sense of observation, notice whatever you notice about it. This is some art that was by Carrie McCracken and her son Gabriel, and they are community partners in Nicaragua. And many, many people were forced to flee because of this political violence that was going on and is going on. And this is a really beautiful piece of eco art that's about overcoming and really settling one's body as they settled in a home country. A variety of diagnoses might present when people experience trauma. And again, a series of small traumas might create something like an anxiety disorder or depression. And then going further down the list, acute stress disorder is a short-lasting response to a trauma. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a longer-lasting response that really impacts people's day-to-day experience. And then complex PTSD is the same thing as PTSD, except it revolves around relational traumas and the impact of certainly early childhood experiences. Some lovely art by Dr. Rosera that's in the PTSD book. This sticks out to me so much. When suffering knocks at your door and you say, oh, there's no seat for him, he tells you not to worry because he's brought his own stool. And as much as we try and avoid suffering, it appears. And so in acceptance and commitment therapy, which is the theory I use, we say pain is mandatory. We all have pain. But the thoughts that we pile on top of our pain can make us suffer even more. There's been a lot of research around the neurobiology of trauma, several decades worth, that point to trauma being a nonverbal brain problem. And the experience of trauma is largely nonverbal. It's felt in one's body, it's witnessing, it's seeing, it's feeling. There is no story like attached to it. It's experienced. I have some art from Vanessa Jimenez, Dr. Jimenez. When we think about the brain changes that happen when people experience a significant trauma, it's stored in the body. And it's remembered in ways that are different from how we might remember a happy memory. So it's an emotional sensation, a bodily sensation that happens. That's how trauma memories are generally experienced. Felt sense is a term that Lori Rappaport uses. And of course, it's stored in our visual memory. Somatic, which is bodily perceptions, and our pre-verbal perceptions. So there's not a story attached to it. These kinds of disruptions from a trauma lead to emotional and cognitive disruptions. One thing that sticks out to me again about the pandemic is so many people say, was that last year or 2 years ago? No, maybe it was 2.5 years ago. Well, I just know it was since before. Having time distortion is a symptom of what our brain does when we go through trauma. So if you can think of the last time where you got confused about the timeline during the pandemic, or your timeline is out of order in your own experiences of trauma, that's part of what happens to the brain. Some or all of our memories are inhibited. And what's most interesting in the last couple of decades are the neurological findings that language and the areas of the brain, the Broca's area, is simply not firing. It's not active during trauma. Here's a great example. It's kind of old. Linda Gant, really well-respected art therapist, Dr. Gant, and her husband, Dr. Tianin, a psychiatrist, did a lot of research together. They have an incredible protocol for treating people with PTSD. They looked at a group of people who had experienced traumas, significant capital T kinds of traumas. Some had PTSD, some did not, but they all had a significant trauma. And what happened when they were reporting their trauma is profoundly different. So in your brain, there's the anterior cingulate cortex. It's really about the part of your brain that deals with emotions and verbal control. So it connects to the limbic system and it connects to the prefrontal cortex. And this part of the brain is what showed up very differently between the two groups. So the first group that did not have PTSD, they told their trauma, they verbally reported it, and their anterior cingulate cortex remained active, kept going. They were able to tell a story about their trauma. The people who had PTSD, when they just tried to talk about their trauma, lo and behold, on these brain scans, their anterior cingulate cortex simply didn't light up. It was inactive. The part of the brain that's helping someone tell a story was not working. What that gives us in terms of applying that research is the knowledge that we aren't really inherently able to talk about our traumas. And so many people have said, and so many therapists have noticed, I could draw it maybe. I can't explain it, but I could maybe show you a picture or something. So many people have challenges that are not to the level of a diagnosis around anxiety or PTSD. And I just made a list of reactions that I see in the people that I've worked with. The research also shows that people who have some symptoms of PTSD benefit from the PTSD treatments. And that's essentially working with a trauma therapist to go through and create a trauma narrative. Another piece of art from the book by TT. Traumatic events are almost impossible to put into words. And Gant and Tianin and many other people talk about how art and expressive therapies can provide access to those trauma memories. So let's talk about healing. There are 3 stages of trauma recovery, and essentially I found this across all of the literature, people working with trauma survivors. Safety is first, and it goes throughout the entire process of recovery. So in therapy and out of therapy, it's essential that people begin to feel safe and they're able to self-regulate. That breathing exercise we did fits right in here with safety, feeling comfortable and connecting with your body. The second stage is absolutely a necessary step. And it is an uncomfortable part for many people, where they're remembering their trauma, they're working to put it in a coherent order, they're mourning their losses of what could have been, how things might have turned out. The last one is reconnection, and that's integrating back into life. And I want to point out the difference between trauma-informed therapy and trauma therapy. So trauma-informed means that the person is aware of and understands trauma, triggers, reactions, and they're really able to support someone through that safety stage. So a school classroom might have a trauma-informed teacher, and they might set up, comfort stations or have ways that kids can take a break. They understand how to help people feel safe. Therapists can be trauma-informed when they're doing initial work. However, it requires really intense focus on trauma to do trauma work and do trauma therapy. And there's several evidence-based protocols that are available to us. There's a lot of really great research on the success of these and some incredible studies about pairing these sort of classic evidence-based approaches like prolonged exposure with art, and people are better able to tolerate that remembering and mourning phase of therapy in a different way. Less people drop out when they're doing art and connected with that level of processing. So Miran had a question about why art therapy versus other forms of therapy. Art therapy really strengthens those brain areas. Remember the ACC? Those are the areas that are compromised by childhood abuse, neglect, relational trauma. And art can help those areas become active again. The art allows for rebalancing of thoughts and integrating experience and perception of what happened. You keep hearing me say coherent trauma narrative. This is a really important part of recovery, is someone being able to tell their story kind of all the way through. In art, like sometimes people make a comic book style of their life, integrating the trauma experience into their whole life as a piece of their life. And it also, art therapy addresses those somatic and nonverbal trauma memories. So let's do a little art. This is an exercise called Just One Line, and I'll give you a couple examples here. It's an opportunity for you to do a scribble and a doodle, and then you can project all over it. So when we're unaware of how we're feeling, we're unable to tap into what's going on for us. We rely on the kind of external cues sometimes, right? We'll get grounded by noticing what we see, taking some deep breaths. This drawing is just a simple way, and again, you can do it anytime you want. It requires only a pen. A simple scribble, just a line doodle. So you can do a few doodles now. And then I'll ask you to pause and just take a deep breath. And I'll give you about 15 seconds or so to just one line, make just one line. However you do it is fine. There's no right or wrong. Whatever you do will be great. Okay. So now give your scribble a title. Whatever you want. Your scribble. You can write 3 words or phrases to describe your scribble. And it might be describing what you see on the paper, describing how you feel as you look at it. However you do it is great. And finally, if this were a lifeline, a line kind of describing your life, where would you be on that line? Would you be in a loop-de-loop swirly part? Would you be in a straight and level part? Just put a little dot wherever you are on the line. Again, there's no right or wrong. Oh, right on, Mira. Oh, spring. Nice. Nice. Thank you. Just one line is a way to label your feelings, a way to label your thoughts. And simply naming them can have a profound effect on our body. If you've ever found yourself saying, I feel overwhelmed, that's like too many feelings all at once. And slowing down and identifying some of them can help you feel kind of more in control of what that is. I also read a research study that they hooked up all these people to the biofeedback machines, had them say different words. And when people said the word overwhelmed, they felt it, like their blood pressure spiked, their heart rate went faster. So maybe even avoiding saying that word would help us. Okay, so shifting into the healing part of trauma. Integrating trauma into our life means being able to look at our whole life, the big picture of our life, and understand where trauma fits in. It was this period of time or this period of time, how things changed as a result of various traumas, and understanding the big picture. A really important piece of this is helping people feel present and connected instead of remembering the trauma as if it were still happening. Being able to tell the story in the past is a really healing part of this. Integration also means returning to the things you love that have been neglected because of traumas, hobbies, friends, being outdoors, maybe getting a new pet, spending time with family. Healing also requires that we let go of our reliance on some coping skills that are ineffective. So the avoidance strategies, trying to stay away from feelings through drinking or shopping or overworking or anything that takes us away from our present experience is an avoidance strategy. Healing also includes a focus on our values, what's important to us, really getting clear on that, and acting as if that were really important. In other words, if family is important, then act like it. Give somebody a call, set up time to go visit distant relatives. If your health is really important and you identify that as a value, then demonstrate it through going for a walk every day. Creating and maintaining a self-care strategy is essential. So if you create a self-care strategy, it has to be sustainable, right? We can't invent the idea of, oh, I'm going to exercise every day for an hour when we're not able to do that. Or we can't create a self-care strategy that involves things we can't afford or we really aren't committed to. So simple practices that we can maintain. And finally, in substance abuse, they call it a relapse prevention plan. So what happens when we get off track? I'm calling it a rejuvenation plan. How to get back on track is a really important part of integrating trauma. When I first began working at the Rape Crisis Center, it was before 1996. This wasn't even a concept that was in our vernacular, post-traumatic growth. And it's the idea that people who experience significant struggle after traumatic experiences can often see this unexpected positive growth afterwards. And there's been a lot of research on this sense, and it fits in really well with positive psychology. These are the 5 areas where people tend to see their own growth. And in therapy, we don't necessarily bring this up. We listen for people to indicate where they are. They're noticing something's shifted and changed. And then we might introduce this term to them so they can keep looking for their own post-traumatic growth. So it involves a real appreciation of life, gratitude, deepening relationships with other people, seeing new possibilities where perhaps they had seen a foreshortened future or incredible sadness for themselves. They might notice that their personal strengths have kind of flourished or developed in a way that they really like them. And then many people experience a spiritual change where they're able to deepen their connection to their source, their higher power. So what's one strength or personality trait that you've cultivated because of past pain? So don't put your past pain in the chat. Just put like this strength or the area where you see that you've grown because of a stress or something you've had to overcome. Embracing change, overcoming shame, stronger inner boundaries. That's a good one. Clear boundaries. Yeah. Being more self-reliant and always plan for the worst case scenarios, right? Plan for the worst and expect the best. Taking things one moment at a time and literally slowing down. That's brilliant. The slower we go, the better it is in all things. These are really great. Perspective, right? So how we started with what brought you joy, now we're going deeper into like, what do you have now that you didn't have before, that you're a richer, deeper, more fully felt person because of what's happened to us. Oh, it's a good one. Flexibility and appreciation to myself. Yeah. More compassionate. These are great. Like having a kinder look at ourselves can change how we relate to everyone else too. All right, another exercise. Y'all are gonna leave feeling so good, I hope. Okay, so this one's your imagination. Imagining, if you don't like airplanes, you can imagine maybe that you're just at the, like a top of a hill, or if you're in San Francisco, you're anywhere watching the fog. So if you imagine that you are looking out the window, you're on the airplane. And this is an exercise to observe all the things happening in you. And so as the clouds go by, you notice a thought and you can set it on the cloud. As you notice something in your body, just observe it, set it on the cloud. If you have judgments, set that on a cloud. If your body feels tense, set that on the cloud. And what you're doing is creating a sense of awareness of all the things going on in your mind, in your body, in your general awareness. So it's simply observing. This is a mindful approach. It's not guided. It's just observing what's happening for you. So I'll give you a minute. And as things come to you, imagine setting it on one of these lovely puffy clouds. And I'll just give you a minute to do that. Take a deep breath in, hold, and a really slow exhale. What I've invited you to do here is get in touch with this part of you that's able to observe. In ACT, we call it self as context. You're the context for all these other things happening around you. Other theories might describe that part as your observing self or your watcher self, your parent self, your sort of compassionate self. It's about being able to reflect on what you're feeling or thinking or experiencing without getting stuck into the details. Once you've set it on that cloud, you can look at it with a little bit of psychological distance. So this is another amazing tool that you can use anytime you're feeling like an emotional upset, a trigger, you're in a situation where you feel maybe scattered or you're unable to focus on something. Pausing for a minute, become aware of all the things that you can, will give you a deep sense of ease. And the more you practice it, the better you'll get at it. You'll be able to call it up quickly. Okay, so I want to pause here and give you a little bit of information, I promised I'd tell you about the book and what else is going on, and then we'll wrap things up. The lovely publishers at Jessica Kingsley gave me a coupon code you can use, and it's good if you're in the US and you order through the publishing company. It's good through the end of the year. The coupon code is my last name, all caps, 22. It gives you 30% off, which I think is pretty good. I also want to tell you about a really cool workshop that I'm doing in September. And some of you have been coming to my workshops all this year, and I love doing them. And I love being able to offer like really high quality, evidence-based, creative practices that are pragmatic. People can use the psychology research really quickly in a way to improve their lives. And September is kind of like the New Year's class. It's the beginning of the school year, and it's called Reset and Rejuvenate. And in this class, you'll learn about your fatigue triggers. You'll figure out your unique needs for rest. You'll figure out a self-care routine that you can maintain, and then learn with other people and have a sense of rejuvenation. So I hope you are interested. You can find it either through my Instagram page or my website, and there's a whole bunch more information there. And I also offer individual counseling, individual packages, and my favorite is Women's Search for Meaning. And that's a really fun way to engage in creative thinking and art practices to focus on purpose, meaning, your contributions. And I think focusing on satisfaction, making happiness a priority. And finally, join me again the first Friday in October. I've got another free event, and I'll be sharing tips from my next book, which is on pre-order. I'm not totally sure the date, probably late October. And this one's about modern evidence-based art therapy psychology and the practical tips that you can use to elevate your life. Oh, I got a question. Useful for couples therapy. Yeah, there's a really set of incredible books about ACT and love. And if you message me, I'll send you the link to those books. It's Russ Harris. And it's got some really cool strategies for couples. Yeah. Yep, you can pre-order it on Amazon. If you go to my Instagram page on the link there, it'll take you right to the Amazon page. So I'm excited about this one. All right, if you want more, you know where to find me. Instagram, my website. There's my email. Okay. So that's what I've been doing, and I'm really excited about it. It's a lovely retirement. I don't think it's technically retirement, but it's a lovely retirement. Okay, so in review, if you want to take a screenshot of what we did and you can schedule it into your week, you can do these quick relaxation exercises. So we did the mindful breath drawing. Again, that's Melanie Worsthall, and that is in the upcoming book. The just one line drawing, that's mine. It's in the PTSD book, so you can read more about it there. And then we did the airplane diffusion visualization. And if you just write on your calendar the next 3 days, do one of these each day, I think you'll find a sense of ease by the end of the 3 days that you'll want to continue. Okay, back to the chat. What will you remember about our time this evening? What sticks out? What was helpful? If you pop that in the chat, I would love to know. And I would say what sticks out for me is how you all identified your strengths in the way that you've had post-traumatic growth from all of our, collective suffering emerges some really incredible strengths that we can give to the world. Art to unwind and be in the now. The one-line exercise, cool, yes. There's a question about you can pre-order on Amazon or Jessica Kingsley. If you want the discount on the PTSD book, that one's only through Jessica Kingsley. Out of great darkness comes great light. That's true. Love the airplane diffusion exercise. Me too. Being present, stopping for a moment to focus on myself, being here and now, reminding me to use eco art. Yeah. Being here and now. Yeah, cool. These are great. I hope that you got what you came for in terms of a sense of relaxation. I wanted to make sure that everybody got a sense of the importance that it is for you to take care of you, and that we all have traumas, we all have distressing experiences in our life, and each of us can benefit hugely from these really simple exercises, and of course from making art on a regular basis. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. Okay.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say thank you. And hello, it's Sherry from Cleveland.
Oh my God, really?
It's so good to see you. Yes. I have a light behind me, so I'm sorry.
Sherry Racket, but I always called you Sherry Black because you had black hair. I'm so happy to see you. Wow.
Me too.
Sherry and I worked together at the Red Crisis Center, and she did some work with me on my dissertation, right? Like some of the scoring on the trauma inventories. Oh, I'm so happy you're here.
Yes, I was so excited to get your email. This was awesome. I was looking forward to it.
Yay. Oh, let's see, a couple of questions. Do I have a script for the airplane exercise? No, I just made it up. I mean, I've made it up, not just like in the moment, but I can write it out and I'll figure out where to put that. And maybe I'll do a Friday chat with it, and then I'll put the script in the comments so you can have it. I'll figure out where to put it. Okay, so for art therapy for attachment problems. Yeah, and I think like with people that are experiencing some attachment styles that are like they're struggling to connect with someone, they're feeling insecure about a connection with other people. They want to go away or go against a connection. The complex PTSD treatments are really, really helpful. There's a lot of ways that people can work on attachment challenges in therapy. It doesn't require a trauma therapist. However, that complex PTSD diagnosis comes from, significant relationship challenges in childhood. And so, attachment style is kind of what we have, and we figure out how to work with it and improve it. And, it's like a lifetime of kind of fighting against our natural urges if we have, challenges in attachment. I think the art is an incredible resource. And I'll tell you why. In art therapy, we talk about a triadic relationship. There's the client, there's the therapist, and there's the art. And the person making the art can relate to the art, project onto the art, and engage with the art in a way that It might be challenging to do that work if it was just one-on-one with a therapist, right? Those attachment styles or the pushing back or the mistrust might be sort of overwhelming in just talk therapy. Same in PTSD, that someone can work with the art and the traumatic memories without having to maybe relate as strongly to the therapist. They can focus on the art for a few moments in the session and relate to themselves and do some healing work in that way. So I think, with the attachment piece, the art and that triadic relationship is really powerful. Oh, thanks, Ms. Jones. All right, you got the book from the Jessica Kingsley publisher with the coupon code. Great, thank you. Let's see, anything else? Let's see, will I do a book signing for the ACT book? I'm wondering, I'm still so cautious about getting together in big groups. I'll do something. I'll do the presentation in October and then I'll figure out something. I want to have more just pop in kind of community events in addition to the classes. All right, well, the hour is almost up and I just want to give you my sincere thanks. So many of you have been a huge part of my writing, and it's been through my work with clients and coworkers and students that really gave me the confidence to write down the things that I've been doing. So thank you all for being here and for supporting me. Thank you. You're welcome. And I will see you again soon. It's a tremendous pleasure to serve, and I'm glad that you were here. So thank you. And I will see you all again soon.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was great to see you.
Thank you.
It was an awesome hour.
Thank you so much, Amy. This was amazing.